within Africa, only the 9 automatic qualifiers will get an automatic slot at the World Cup next year, 2026, in the US, Canada, and Mexico. For the others who finish second, well, the best 4 will go into the pot for a playoffs for the right to represent Africa in the Inter-Confederation playoffs, which we play. But that's a long route nobody is looking up to. Now, for match day 7 and match day 8, interesting stories coming up. Some giants have taken a tumble. Some will have to wait till match day 9 and match day 10 to know whether they can still make it to the World Cup through the automatic route. We'll look at all the big stories. The last time an African country made its debut at the World Cup was at the 2006 World Cup. That's almost 20 years ago. Now, are we about to have another African country make their debut at the next World Cup? Well, Cape Verde appear to be in a sort of position in their group where they could pip the Cameroonians to the sole ticket. We'll talk about all of that. And as far as Ghanaians are concerned, Ghanaians heaved a huge sigh of relief after they managed to beat Mali by a goal to 0. We'll be looking at all those storylines, plus the situation with Nigeria. Do we empathize, or perhaps, as most Africans like to do when it comes to the Nigerian football team, do we laugh out loud at how the giants have fallen? All of that in today's edition of the Football Tribe. Joining us all the way from Nairobi, Kenya, my very, very good friend and brother, James Wokabi. And also joining us tonight to be the Director of Communications at the Ghana Football Association, Henry Asante Chum. And then we'll have Mickey Jr., who will join us. I don't know where he is right now, whether he's somewhere in East Africa, but he's traveling across Africa. And he will join us with his perspective as far as things are concerned. Let me start, though, with James first. And James, I'm sure you have been awake watching every single match since the qualifiers resumed last week. Well, James, I'm sure you can hear me because I can't hear you yet if you are speaking. James, we can't hear you. Network is buffering a bit. But whilst I wait for James to be heard across his Zoom line all the way from Nairobi, Kenya, we'll just run through some of the big stories that have come up. And there's no bigger story than Nigeria. Just a couple of hours ago, Nigeria played against South Africa at the Free State Stadium. And Nigeria really needed to win this game because they were on 10 points. South Africa were on 16 points going into this particular match. With just 2 more match days to come, Nigeria needed to narrow the gap to give themselves a fighting chance of getting one of the automatic slots to the World Cup. They didn't start well. They fell behind against South Africa. But 1 minute before the end of the first half, Bassi got an equalizer for the Nigerians, which raised their hopes of going into the second half and perhaps pipping the South Africans to the post as far as this match is concerned. Things didn't turn out like that for the Nigerians. The South Africans held out. A draw certainly favors the South Africans, who now have 17 points. The Nigerians have 11 points. And for all intents and purposes, the Nigerians really don't have a dog's chance of qualifying for the World Cup. South Africa, depending on how results go, South Africa may need just a single point to be able to confirm their qualification for the World Cup by the time match day 9 and match day 10 come along. So they are already celebrating, unless, of course, something happens in the FIFA boardroom concerning the player eligibility issue that changes things. And I'm sure this evening there have been national reflections and introspection as far as the Super Eagles are concerned. It means the Super Eagles will be missing out on back-to-back World Cups. That's something that's not happened since they made their debut in 1994. And a lot of them really were looking forward to the opportunity to relive the heroics of the 1994 side, the side that features Sia, Yakini, Daniel Amokachi, and many other players who made quite an impression in the World Cup that was incidentally played in the United States of America at the time. And Eric Chell, who was brought in to try to correct some of the earlier mistakes the Nigerians had made in qualifiers, dropping points in matches that they shouldn't have dropped points, appears to not have succeeded as far as turning around the Nigerian fortunes are concerned. And I'll be running you through the groups as we have them here, the standings, and what that means at the end of this international window. The Nigerians are in the same group as South Africa. And based on that result, South Africa, as I mentioned, have 17 points. The Nigerians have 11 points. Benin, who at the time had played a match less, would also have 11 points. But indeed, the dynamics changed after the end of the game involving Benin and Lesotho, with the Beninois were hosting. That game was won by the Beninois by 3-0. It means Benin moved from 11 points to 14 points to stay within touching distance of the South Africans. So mathematically, if there's a team that has a chance of catching the South Africans, it is Benin, because they are just 3 points behind the South Africans. Nigeria, at this stage, the chances of them overhauling the South Africans will be a big deal. The other big results, and we'll be reflecting on all of this when my guests join me, relates to the other groups where there were virtual shootouts between the top teams to decide who would qualify or who would put themselves in a really good position to qualify by the time the final round of matches comes along. In Group A, Burkina Faso returned to Ouagadougou for the first time in a while to play against Egypt. And James, if you are there, I think they are working on the sound, and we'll get you, and I'll be able to interact with you as soon as possible. The Egyptians went to Ouagadougou in this crucial match. For Burkina Faso to be able to stay within touching distance of the Egyptians, they needed to win this game. They went into the match, and unfortunately, they drew goalless with the Egyptians. And the Egyptians lead by 5 points, which really puts them in a strong position. Remember, the two other North African countries have, confirmed their tickets. Morocco is qualified. Tunisia is secured qualification. Algeria is almost there. And as things stand now, it looks like there will be 4 North African countries who will be qualifying for the World Cup in 2026. As it stands, it's Egypt 20 points, Burkina 15 points, Sierra Leone are on 12 points as they go into the last 2 matches. And the chances of Burkina Faso overhauling the Egyptians, for me, are almost non-existent. It's only on paper, mathematically. In Group B, Senegal came into this weekend's matches needing to shake off the 2 other contenders in the group, Sudan and Congo DR. Congo DR have had a barnstorming World Cup qualification campaign, and they appear to be the biggest threat to the Senegalese going into this match day. The Senegalese first took care of Sudan, coached by Ghana's Kwesi Appiah, and then they proceeded to stage a remarkable comeback in Kinshasa against the DR Congo team, which had been leading them by 2-1. To win by 3-2, it means the Senegalese returned to the top of the table. They were 1 point behind the Congolese going into that game. Senegal has 18 points. The Congolese have 16 points. So it's 2 points difference between the two countries as we go into the last 2 matches. What can happen? What can happen? Remember, the Congolese have not been to the World Cup since 1974. Let me go to James now. Hopefully we can hear James. James, can you hear me? And if you can hear me, hello there. It's been a while. James, can you hear me? James Walker, can you hear me? I can hear some noises from your side. If you could speak, perhaps I could hear you. James, please, can you hear me? Well, James, if you have muted, just unmute. Because, hello, James. Well, James still appears not to be able to hear me. James Wakabi, can you hear me? He's joined us via Zoom all the way from Nairobi. He's been watching and paying attention to all the games across the continent. And we just want to have a discussion of the major storylines from this weekend in order to forecast what is likely to happen next month in October, when the final 2 matches are played. Meanwhile, just to keep running you through, in Group C, we've already touched that. That's South Africa's group with Nigeria. In Group D, the surprise leaders of the group. And James, if I think you're trying to speak, but you're still on mute. So if you can hear me. Hello, James. Well, James cannot still hear me. In Group D, the surprise leaders after the two matches of this international break are the Blue Sharks of Cape Verde. They are on 19 points. Cameroon are on 15 points. That's because in the match that was played earlier today, the Blue Sharks defeated Cameroon, one of the favorites to pick up a ticket to go to the next World Cup. It means that there are 4 points difference between the Cameroonians and the Cape Verdeans. A win in the next round of matches would see the Cape Verdeans qualify for the FIFA World Cup for the very first time, which will be the first time since 2006 that a country is making its debut from Africa. So Cameroon do not have everything in their hands. They would need results from elsewhere to work in their favor. And it starts this whole big debate. There are those who have the opinions that Africa should always be represented by traditional sides who have a history in the World Cup, who have pedigree in the World Cup, and know what it's like to play in the World Cup. I say that it's qualification is open to anybody who excels in any particular time. And indeed, the last time there were debutants from Africa at the World Cup, there were up to 4 countries who earned their place at the World Cup. Ghana made its first appearance in 2006. The Togolese made their first appearance in 2006. The Angolans as well. And indeed, La Côte d'Ivoire. So, Cape Verde have earned the rights. And if they win and they end up qualifying for the World Cup, well, as Africa's representative, nobody will shed a tear for Cameroon, although we have a lot of fond memories of Cameroon's history in the competition and the ability and indeed the squads that they have. And I have said this somewhere that I believe when Cape Verde qualifies, you'll be surprised at how many perhaps players who play in Portugal of Cape Verdean descent might suddenly switch allegiance to come and play for Cape Verde. They might be capable of surprising everybody. Remember when Ghana made its debut at the 2006 World Cup, Ghana made it all the way to the second round stage of the competition. So we can't dismiss the chances of teams that qualify for the first time. I've been joined by Henry Asante, and I'm hoping the audio will allow me to hear Henry. Henry is Director of Communication of the Ghana Football Association, and our interest is in Group I. Now, Ghana started this weekend's qualifiers in pole position in the group, and most people thought 2 wins, Ghana confirms qualifications with 2 matches to spare. It didn't happen. It started in the hardest possible manner when Ghana went to Chad, the worst team in the group that had not even earned a point. They got their first points against Ghana, and that sets the stage for a lot of tension, doubts, fear, and conversations around the depth within the team and the abilities of the coach. So I'm sure Henry must be relaxed and sighing with relief after what happened yesterday. We did a watch along on this channel with Ghana beating Mali by 1-0. Henry, if you can hear me, you were in the dressing room, you were in the team hotel. Just tell me how much this result meant to the players and the coaching staff of the Black Stars. Henry, can you hear me?
Yes, I think I can hear you now.
Yeah, so look, we did a watch along, so I wasn't even physically at the stadium. Maybe it was for the best because I could watch it from the safety of a screen. You were there. I don't know where you were seated, but take me through the emotions you went through until the final whistle from the referee.
Well, I am always with I am always with the match commissioner and the referee assessor because I deal with media operations. So I actually stand in between the 2 benches. I am in the middle of the home team and the away team doing my work. And even though my interest is obviously to see the Black Stars win home games and other matches on match days, specifically in Accra, Kumasi, or any part of Ghana, I've got to play a more professional role and sort of a neutral, role because um, there are things to do for CAF and FIFA. So I was actually on the pitch. Occasionally, I shift towards the Ghana bench to chip in one or two words, and then I come back
Oh,
to my duty post. But it was a very emotional afternoon, just as you indicated. We went into the match day 7 and 8 as table toppers, and we had a good point tally compared to the second place team, which was Comoros, and then Madagascar were in third and Mali were in fourth. And so we're hoping to beat Niger in order to make things quite easier for us. Unfortunately, the game against Niger did not go as planned. Even though we scored first through Jordan Ayew, they came back in the 90th minute to equalize, and we were left with no other option but to win against Mali yesterday. We saw snippets of the game they played, which they won by 3 goals to 0. They've looked quite good since the last time we met them in March when we won by 2 goals to 1. So we knew it was always going to be difficult, judging from the fact that they had their noses in front, their confidence level were higher,
yeah.
and then we had some issues dealing with sickness, others needed to be roped in, but we were focused on taking advantage of playing at home. You reckon that we have been very strong at home since the commencement of the qualifiers way back in September 2023, and we wanted to continue that amazing record. We began with a home game against Madagascar, won 1-0, then beat Central African Republic in June last year, 4-3. And then in March this year, we beat Chad by 5 goals to 0. So that is what we wanted to build on. Mali had changed the entire technical staff. They had gone 4 games without defeat. They were pushing for one of the two spots, either to win the group or to finish as a runner-up to make it to the playoff stage. So even though we were playing at home and we were tagged as favorites, all the points building up to the game or leading up to this encounter were slightly tilted in favor of Mali. And we knew
Indeed,
they had quality.
Tom Saintfiet, the
We
coach,
knew they
arrived and
had
declared that he was
a
coming
very
to
good
make history,
coach,
right?
Saint Fate, who has worked in Africa for a long time, Togo, the Gambia, and later Tunisia and back in Africa. And we started very well. The chances were not forthcoming, and so the emotions were running through everyone associated with the game. But we like the support, the number 12 role. We were rooting for the team right from the get go. They stuck with us, they supported us, even when the going got tough. And the first half ended 0-0. But I thought that the most important thing to do was not to lose our heads. It was just to be focused, keep pushing, and also watch our back because we were playing against a tricky opponent. So 4 minutes into the second half, we scored, and once we took the lead, um, we started, reeling under pressure because they were pushing to equalize. But I like the discipline of the team. The technical team decided to soak the pressure and hit on the counter. We created a few chances, and in the end, it ended by 1 goal to 0. So it was an emotionally charged evening in Accra yesterday, but it wasn't a flamboyant performance. It wasn't an
Yeah.
extraordinary showing from the team. But in the end, we got what was most important, which is 3 points. We have our lead intact, and we are hoping to wrap things up in October. Hopefully, when we play the Central African Republic and Comoros.
Henry, just hold on for a moment. I want to be sure if we fixed our sound issues with James. James, can you hear me? James, can you hear me,
Yes,
James?
Sammy, I can hear you. Good evening, sir.
Hi, James. What a relief. Good to finally hear from you.
I can hear you.
And I know you were following the game from Nairobi because at some point when we substituted,
Hi, Sammy.
when Ghana substituted
Yes.
the attackers, you just tweeted and said, "What's going on? Semenyo is out. Jordan is out. What's going on?" You must have felt how tense things were in Accra all the way from Nairobi, didn't you? James, can you hear me? I was just saying, from your perspective, watching things from Nairobi, what were your impressions about how Ghana finished that game
Sammy,
against Mali? If you can hear me.
I'll tell you what I thought, or rather why I asked that question, because I thought you keep some of your big players in the game, if only because of who they are. So I thought it was a strange substitution.
Okay, let's try again. James, can you hear me? I can hear you.
Yes,
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 I
Sammy.
can hear you. I was at,
Yes, yes, Sammy. I watched the game. I watched the entire game, and it was a hard watch. It was a scrappy performance, and I've been at Johannejan when the Black Stars are playing, and that last night was nothing. Was nothing like what I am used to or that I'd expect from the Black Stars. But credit to them, a win is a win. They got the 3 points, but I maybe wanted more or I expected more from Ghana. I thought maybe play a bit more, just play a bit more. But on the end, I understand it's all about qualifying, and at the end justifies the means. But I just felt like it was sticky. It wasn't flowing. It was a lot of stop-start football, and I couldn't understand the subs because I wondered you when you pull out your main guys, when you pull out Kudus and you pull out Semenyo, I wondered what shouldn't you keep them on? Aren't they the guys who can make a difference for you? Um, if only for the experience and the fear factor. But then again, this is a new Ghana team that plays very differently from the Ghana team that I watched a lot in the early mid to the early tens. Just a team that was a lot more vibrant. This one is not quite the same, but you know what? You got the job done. And when you qualify for the World Cup, no one is going to care what happened. But that game was tense. That game was scrappy, very stop start, very unlike the what I would want when I see Kudus and I see Semenyo and you have Inaki Williams on the bench. Selemana came on and he wasn't great. But you know what? At the end of the day, everyone who wants to go to the World Cup won't care how you go to the World Cup, so long as you're at the World Cup. But it wasn't an easy watch. It was a very hard watch. I wonder how tense it was in the stadium, especially when you see 6 minutes of added time and you're wondering, can they see them off? Because Mali looked like they could do something through and through. You kept seeing the young man, Nene, you kept thinking he might just do something. And I looked at it and I was like, phew, at least Ghana have gotten the 3 points.
yeah. Let me go back to Henry on that. Henry, I'm sure you get that a lot when people say that this is not the Black Stars they are used to. Um, what What's your response to that? Henry, if you can hear me, yeah. Last night, look, people were doing on the phone-ins on the FM stations talking about team performance, despite the fact that they won, and people calling for the head of the coach saying he's still not good enough. How do you respond to all of that as as a member of the Ghana Football Association? Henry, can you hear me?
Well, Sami, I mean, to be honest, the performance of the team was not the best as we've known. We are used to watching beautiful football. I know the Ghanaian fans always want to see their team dominant, take full control of possession, create a lot of chances, boss the midfield, have full grip of proceedings from start to finish. If it was an away game, then maybe you consider it as a, a resolute performance. But once it was a home game, you cannot, accept the fact that the team had that outing and won. One thing we should also remember: it is interesting how times change, and they change so quick. Um, in March this year, we played 2 games against Chad and Madagascar and did not concede. And in those 2 games, we scored 8 goals. Um, just a quick turn, few months later, we go into another window, play 2 games against Chad and Mali, and the performance is different. It is interesting how times change. Been raised. We knew Mali will be pushing. We knew there will be a hard nut to crack. Let's not forget that even though we're playing at home, the pressure was on us to preserve our lead. Any slip up would have made things quite difficult, and that is what we wanted to avoid. So, in avoiding conceding an early goal, in trying not to cede a possession to the opponent, we needed to come up with a strategy where they will not find their rhythm. So you realize that they were hitting all the long balls, and we had men to deal with it. In an aerial situation, you realize that sometimes they move the game wide, and we had our fullbacks also in full swing. One of the things we did, and maybe people did not really pay attention to that, but we've not had the consistency that we need, especially in our midfield. There have been a lot of changes, especially in our midfield. We've Partey sometimes, Partey playing with Samuel Salis, and yesterday we had another partnership between a new player who was making his debut appearance and then an experienced player in Thomas Partey. So, and once you do not get the engine of the team intact or accurate, sometimes it affects your performance going forward, and it also goes to worry your team play. So, Ekosizibo was brilliant on the day. It was good a performance from him for his debut. I think Thomas was also great, but in the final third, I think we lacked some moments of brilliance. 1 second decision, split second decision, when to release the ball, how to find the opponent in the final third. When do you move or run behind the defenders? How do you go behind the channels and expect the ball? Yes, Semenyo did very well with loads of energy, burning out energy in the first half. But because he ran a lot, the coaches felt after 65, 70 minutes, he was tired and needed to be replaced. And at the point, at the point the substitution of Kudus and Jordan were taking place, these players did not play as normal offensive striker and a center forward. They played more on the wide. They carried the ball from behind, run with it, and find a way to make it useful in the opponent's half. And it got to a point where the coaches felt they needed fresh legs. So they decided to sit back, soak the pressure, throw Joseph Pintel into the fray, and then Kamaldeen Suleimana as well into the fray, so that we could rely on the counter and the speed of these two players. I think there were 2 or 3 chances that we could have made good use of, and unfortunately, it did not count. They couldn't take advantage of those chances, and the score ended 1-0. So yes, I agree with all the criticisms, the contributions, and what have you. It is part of the game. But let's not forget, like I mentioned, that it is this same team that scored 2 goals without conceding in March this year, just a few months ago. And because the result did not go well against Chad in Jamena, naturally, pressure was bearing on the team, and that in a way contributed to how we set up and played yesterday. But we got the points. We will build on it. We have lots of positives to pick from this. We also look at all the negatives and the corrections needed to get better as we go into the final round of matches in October.
Well, Henry, just I mean, I've had some breaks, and I'm sure we are trying to resolve that. Um, before I let you go, just yeah, Henry, can you hear me? Hello, Henry Asantichum.
Yes, Sammy, I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I had some breaks towards the end. I'm sure it's the quality of the line, and I apologize for those who are watching and listening to us. Just two quick questions because of the quality of the lines, and you could answer them together. First one, um, was there a party yesterday? There's speculation on social media that there was a Black Stars victory party. Two, is the coach under pressure despite the win and going into the final two games? Because despite the win and the fact that the Black Stars have extra points that should put them in good stead going into the final match day, the general voices you hear suggest that Ghanaians are not happy.
There was no party. The players needed to.
Henry, did you hear my question?
Party? Was there a party? No. Well, the answer to your first question is that there was no party after the game. I spent about 3 hours at the stadium because two of our players needed to do the mandatory doping test. Alexander Jiku and Jonas Ajete had to go through the doping test after the match. So I was there with the team doctor to ensure that that process is done. Upon getting back to the team hotel, majority of the players were packing because they had to leave last night. So um, immediately after dinner, they went into their rooms to pack, and we sent them to the airport because they had to catch their respective flights. The second question has to do with whether there is pressure on the coach. The answer to your question is a big no. There is no pressure on the coach. We knew that at some point we will find ourselves in situations like this, which is why we decided to give him a long-term contract. Now, during that decision, it's clear that times like this will come. There will be times when we play well and not get the results. There will be times when we don't play well and we will get the results. And there will be times when we won't play well and won't get the results. But the most important thing is to keep faith in the project, is to ensure that you will be consistent with whatever you are doing. And that is what we intend to do. There have been some good moments, there have been some bad moments. Otto's first competitive games in the World Cup qualifiers, we won back to back against Mali and Central African Republic. Yes, in the course of last year, we couldn't qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations that comes off in December this year. But on the back of that, we have won games against Chad, Madagascar, yesterday, Mali. Out of the 4 World Cup qualifiers, we have won 3 and drawn 1 since our inability to qualify for the World Cup. So, yes, the opinions on the streets matter a lot, but we are very much concentrated on being consistent with the project, also believing in whatever we are doing, and also understanding that in our quest to get better, there will definitely be rough patches. But you do not have to hasten in decision making. We have to keep calm, analyze situations well, work on all the rough edges, and look at all the various components that make a team better before a firm decision is made. It's not only the coach. Yes, I hear arguments that he has good materials, he has this name, he has that name, he has this name. But how many days do we get to even train and build team chemistry and all of that? And so, yes, these are things that happen. These are conversations that will go on. But I can confidently tell you that there is no pressure whatsoever on the coach. We have played eight. There are two more to go. We
All right,
will
Henry.
definitely round up
The line is
against
breaking, but
Comoros
I'm
and,
glad
and,
I
and
kept
look
you
at the
out
way
of bed
forward.
today to answer those questions. Uh,
It's not only the coach, yes. I hear you.
Henry's line is breaking too. Henry, thanks a lot. And I'm sure you would have a really good week because the pressure is off your shoulders at the Ghana Football Association. And for now, Otto is under less pressure. But fingers crossed until the ticket is really confirmed for US, Canada, and Mexico 2026.
And so, yes, I can confidently tell you that.
Yeah, I think we're having some latency issues. So I'll just thank Henry and switch to James. I've kept James awake. Remember, he's 2 hours ahead in Kenya, so he's almost nearing midnight. James, I appreciate the time. Um, just to run through the other results, congratulations to Kenya. You won by a big margin, but it doesn't mean that you can qualify. In your group, the pace setters are La Côte d'Ivoire, who played against Gabon. I think we can end that interview with Henry. The pace setters are La Côte d'Ivoire. They are now just a point ahead of Gabon. This was the big match in the group in Franceville. Gabon were hoping to be able to win that game in order to give themselves a chance of qualifying for the World Cup for the very first time, but it didn't turn out that way. The Ivorians held their own, and the point is just still one in favor of the Ivorians going into the last two matches. James, did you hear my question? Oh, pilot episodes are always dangerous like that. We're having latency issues with internet connections to my friend James Walkerby in Kenya. James, if you didn't hear my question, I was asking you about the state of affairs in Group F, where Kenya is. Of course, Kenya has no chance of qualifying, although you had a big results today. But the pace setters are La Côte d'Ivoire. They managed to avoid defeat in Gabon. Do you reckon that pretty much installs them as the favorite to win the automatic ticket in Group F?
Because if Gabon beat Ivory Coast, then something would have been different. But Ivory Coast just about held on, which means they keep their destiny in their own hands. And then when you look at their last two games, if I'm not wrong, they play Seychelles and Kenya. I mean, end of story. They will win both games. They will qualify. I think Gabon left it too late. I think the main thing was Gabon to win today. I think Gabon, for Gabon, is a similar case to what was for Senegal for DRC today. If DRC win or they even draw, they keep their fate in their own hands. They couldn't. It's the same thing with Gabon. Gabon had to win. Once they do not win, the Ivory Coast will just look at it and be like, oh well, just Sea of Seychelles, Sea of Kenya, you're through to the World Cup. So it was a very, very big game from a Gabon point of view. The Ivorians just needed to find a way to get over the line, just like Ghana did. And at times the big boys do that. They've been very solid defensively. So you have to work very hard to crack them. But I think in the end, the Ivorians did exactly what they needed to do. Now they will finish off the job. I think for them the key thing was make sure you do not give Gabon the upper hand, and they did that. So not bad for Kenya. Let's get ready for AFCON 2027. I think that's the thing that Kenya must concentrate on. Leave these World Cup stories alone. There's so much work to do just to make sure that Kenya is ready for 2027 at the AFCON.
Listen, James, you mentioned the big boys. Two of the big boys are in trouble, one more than the other. Cameroon have fallen behind Cape Verde. It was also one of those matches that I describe as a straight shootout between two of the countries. Cape Verde won that match. And now Cape Verde are on 19 points, Cameroon are on 15 points. That's 4 points difference with 2 matches to go. And then after that, we can talk about Nigeria, who are in more trouble because their chances are slim to non-existent. Your thoughts about the Cameroon situation in Group D?
Sammy, Cameroon have gone ahead and Cameroon have found a way to put themselves in trouble. Um, they marked around. They've had so many issues happening around Cameroon, whether it's Eto and the coach, whether it's the coach from the government, is the coach from Fecafoot, and Cape Verde are very plucky. They take care of business, and what they have done is Cape Verde have taken care of business, and once they've beaten Cameroon today, I think again, Cameroon are in the same boat as Nigeria. They didn't take care of business, and the team that they are up against just took their game seriously from day one. They've sorted everything out, and the way it is set up now, I think Cape Verde will qualify. The big game was today. They found that win, and I think it's been a case of the Giants maybe starting lazy, dropping points in games they shouldn't drop, and in the end, they will pay the price, which would be a wonderful story for Cape Verde to qualify for the World Cup. They have had these wonderful stories qualifying for AFCON. Now qualifying for the World Cup would be good, but also maybe a wake up call for Cameroon, which really hasn't gone the way we all thought it would, given um, Africa's best ever player has been in charge of the football in the country. You thought with Africa's best football player, maybe there would be something. There would be a bit of stardust or gold dust that would land on them. Absolutely nothing. Cape Verde have this right where they need it. All those of the football in the country you don't witness or gold dust right where.
So, James, that leaves us. I mean, I'll just ask you 2 more questions because of the challenges we are having with the line, which is the Nigeria situation. Now, I mean, pretty much there's nothing Nigeria can do. It's a big deal for South Africa, though, the work that Hugo Bros has done over the last few years. Nigeria, on the other hand, perhaps unexpectedly missing back-to-back World Cups. I mean, this will have economic implications. There are people who are going to miss Nigeria in the US, but I guess this will raise serious questions about a very talented generation of Nigerian players and why they could not qualify for the World Cup less than a year or so after managing to go all the way to the finals of the African Cup of Nations and almost winning the whole thing.
Another country that gets in its own way. Country that just can't seem to have a long-term plan. Another country that gets by with not proper planning. I mean, how many coaches have they had for the qualifiers? How many coaches has Nigeria had in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Um, the gap the gap between the big sides and the smaller sides has sort of closed a bit. And Nigerians traditionally, Nigerians would always get themselves out of trouble. Like they would start qualifying badly, and then they would find a way and get through. Kenya has been victim of that twice, for the 1998 World Cup and for the 2010 World Cup, where Nigeria just they find Kenya in the last games, beat Kenya and qualify for the World Cup. But I feel like this time they may have left themselves with too much to do, and also they came up against a formidable opponent. What South Africa may not have in terms of stardust, they have in terms of a really, really, really good coach who has South Africa playing really well. So when Nigerians were fumbling here, drawing at home with Nigeria, drawing with Benin, South Africa were just getting the job done. And once again, they've left themselves with so much to do. This has nothing to do with the players. This is all about the Football Federation and the coaching and the plan. Nigeria just can't seem to plan long term.
Very typical. Just the last question. It seems like it's been a walk in the park for the North African countries. Morocco was the first to confirm its qualification. Tunisia joined them over the weekend. Algeria is almost there, and based on today's results between Burkina Faso and Egypt, looks like Egypt are also almost there, and their confirmation will come in October. There are those who still rail against the fact that they think the likes of Tunisia in recent years just simply don't perform when they go. But, well, it is what it is. 4 North African countries out of the 9 available slots. What does it tell us about the state of football on the continent? And the balance of power.
Yes, Sami. He also says something about people who prepare well to take their craft seriously. It says something about teams who have a plan. Our plan is go to the World Cup, and they execute it year in, year out. It says a lot about the quality of their leagues, the quality of the individual leagues. If you look at Algeria, if you look at Tunisia, if you look at Morocco, if you look at Egypt, if you compare to the rest of the continent, maybe the only country that comes close is South Africa. And I'm not sure whether this might be very subjective, but I feel like of all the countries on this continent, which is the one which are the countries that have kept true to their playing style, to their cultures, to how they play, to how they approach games? I'd wager a bet that would be the Maghreb nations. They haven't changed as much as the rest of them. They still play with their own kind of style. Nice, good short passes. They make the game fractured when they are leading, and I feel that does play a role in them succeeding because they've kept their identity. And the reason I say that, when you watch Ghana versus Mali, the traditional play of both teams may be not there. When even you watch Cameroon, again, you're not seeing it. And I feel maybe it's the impact of European football, maybe it's the impact of too many players going to Europe at an age. But I just feel like the Maghreb nations have kept a lot of their traditions, a lot of their culture. And I think that does help, especially when it comes with dealing with African football and African opponents.
Wow. James, as usual, thanks a lot for your perspective. Before we go, let me just remind those who are watching across the world in terms of the countries that have qualified. In Africa, you have Morocco, who have confirmed their qualification. Tunisia have also confirmed their qualification. Everybody else will have to wait till the final match day, or perhaps the penultimate and the final match day. In AFC, there are 2 countries that will be making their debuts at the World Cup. Uzbekistan have qualified for the first time. Jordan have also qualified. The other countries are Australia, Iran, Japan, and Korea Republic. In CONMEBOL, Argentina have confirmed qualification. Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Paraguay, Uruguay. There's just the issue of the playoff slots to be sorted out. And in CONCACAF, Canada, Mexico, US, by virtue of being the host, have already qualified. And that's as it stands now. So there's all to play for, a month or so to prepare for. And we'll see what happens. But there's no doubt that history will be made with somebody making their first appearance at the World Cup and somebody who is also used to playing at the World Cup totally not being able to show up. James, sorry about the poor quality of the line. For a first episode, I guess we could be forgiven here on the Football Tribe. We are going to rectify all of that. But I look forward to having pleasant and insightful conversations like this with you on the show as the weeks go by. Thanks a lot for joining us, James. And for everybody else who has joined us for this first episode, apologies for the challenges. But this is the Football Tribe, and that's how we'll do it. We'll see you same time in a week's time. Stay blessed and enjoy your week.